Chen Mu patiently instructed Hu Linger in the art of governing the mechanism. Within the chest of Dutian Devil King, he had concealed a control station. With but a gentle press upon a hidden compartment, the station would spring forth of its own accord. This god statue mechanism, forged from winter crystal iron, was incomparably vast, towering a full 9 yards high. Chenmu had poured an immense fortune into its creation. The winter crystal iron alone had consumed 10,000 great abundance coins. The components of the god statue mechanism numbered in the thousands. 800 to 900 gears alone lay hidden within, interlocking layer upon layer, rendering the entire construction astonishingly intricate. Even should Duchen Devil King refuse to stir, they could still command him through the control station. The god statue mechanism bore 8 arms and 4 faces, each countenance fierce and awe-inspiring, its physique immensely robust. Ordinary divine arts practitioners would find it exceedingly difficult to pierce the defenses of winter crystal iron. At the very heart of the god statue mechanism rested a tiny pill furnace, much akin to the one Chenmu had once forged for Fan Yunxiao. Yet when he had fashioned the furnace upon Fan Yunxiao's ruined ship, it had been his first attempt, and he had lacked experience. This time, the pill furnace was far smaller and far more exquisite in craftsmanship. When Hu Linger seated herself within the control station, she could cast medicinal stones into the miniature furnace and guide the flames therein with her vital qi. Even without Dutian Devil King, she could wield this god statue mechanism as a heavily armored weapon of war. If Dutian Devil King treated the god statue mechanism as his own corporeal form and joined battle, the might he could unleash would be anything but trivial. Divine arts practitioners of Six Directions realm would no longer be his equals, and even those of Seven Stars realm could not claim certain victory over him. Chenmu had learned the craft of this god statue mechanism from Mute, Death, and Old Ma. He had merely assembled the teachings of the 3 elders, not inventing any new art of his own. The only creation he could claim was the act of combining them all. Yet this god statue mechanism undeniably stood at the pinnacle of smithing masters, mechanical masters, and rune masters alike. He had forged an entirely different method of battle. Hu Linger brimmed with excitement, completely disregarding Dutian Devil King, who resided within the statue's body. She leapt straight into the cramped control station and began guiding the god statue mechanism in a trial run. Chenmu immediately called out, "Big Dragon, follow her! Do not let her cause trouble." The dragon Qilin acknowledged the command and hurried after Hu Linger, who squealed with delight while wildly flailing the statue's arms. Chenmu watched the dragon Qilin's retreating figure and saw that its belly nearly brushed the floor. "It is time for this fellow to go on a diet." Chenmu shook his head. In the past, this dragon Qilin had not been particularly sturdy, yet though it had often gone hungry, it had appeared majestic and awe-inspiring. When it guarded the mountain, none dared approach. But ever since it had begun following him, it had never missed a single Scarlet Fire spirit pill and drank freely from the waters of Jade Dragon River. As a result, it had grown fatter and fatter, swelling in size considerably. If this continued, the dragon Qilin would soon become an enormous ball of meat with only its belly touching the ground. It could forget about placing its claws upon the earth. In the past, Patriarch certainly did not give it a full bucket of Scarlet Fire spirit pills, or else it would already have grown round as a sphere. He must have lied about the rations. Better to give it only half a bucket. Chenmu drew in a slow breath and once more executed Overlord Body. His form transformed into that of Saturn Sovereign, human head atop a serpentine body. The apparition of a scroll condensed within his hand, and behind him a gate gradually manifested. Chenmu turned, his soul trembling as strange sounds escaped his lips. It was the language of Yudu that Dutian Devil King had taught him. The Devil King had named it the Gate of Earth Origin. Whether it truly bore that name he did not know, yet he was certain he had spoken the sentence correctly. As he uttered the words inscribed upon the Gate of Earth Origin slowly creaked open, revealing an expanse of boundless darkness. Chenmu was momentarily stunned. Circling the gate, he found himself still within his own courtyard. The gate was impossibly thin, as though it possessed no thickness at all. From its current angle, It appeared only as a vertical sheet of darkness suspended in the air. Yet when he stood directly before it, he beheld endless night stretching out before him. This is a gate that connects to another world? Chin Mu stood bewildered. He extended his palm and cautiously inserted it through the doorway, yet nothing unusual occurred. Is this the marvel of Five Elements realm? Do others in Five Elements realm also possess such a gate? Has anyone opened it and stepped through before? Hesitation flickered within him. What would await him beyond this gate? Would the legendary Yudu lie within that darkness? Would he still return alive if he entered? At that very moment, Chin Mu glimpsed a light emerging from the darkened world. It was a man in a boat. At the bow of the vessel hung a dim lantern, casting a ghostly glow. The small boat drifted steadily toward him. Beneath the lantern's faint radiance sat an elder, folding paper humans and paper horses. In the flickering light, the scene appeared extraordinarily tranquil. Chin Mu leaned forward, attempting to peer through the gate. The elder removed the lantern and shone it directly at him. The instant the light touched him, Chin Mu felt his soul freeze in place, utterly unable to move. The elder then hung the lantern back upon the bow. Once the light left Chin Mu's body, he exhaled in relief. Suddenly, his hair bristled upright. Lowering his head, he saw himself standing upon the boat, right beside the elder. The small vessel slowly turned about. Chin Mu turned his head and saw, far in the distance, light shining from a gate. Before it stood himself, gazing inward. That body at the gate seemed frozen, completely immobile. If he still stood at the gate, then who was he here? He scanned his surroundings. There was nothing but darkness. The sole light came from the lantern, and within that light was the gate of Earth origin. His heart chilled to the bone. The elder who folded paper humans and horses had illuminated him with the lantern and spirited his soul onto the boat. The him before the gate was already a body devoid of soul. Why have you taken my soul when I have yet to die? Chin Mu demanded of the elder. The elder ignored him. Continuing to fold paper figures with unwavering focus, Chin Mu turned back once more. The gate of Earth origin drifted farther and farther away. Terror seized him. Duchian Devil King had concealed truths from him. This gate was likely not the gate of Earth origin at all. Otherwise, this elder would not have stolen his soul. He leapt from the boat. He was not yet too distant from the gate. Perhaps he could return to his body. Yet the moment he jumped, he did not plunge into water as expected. Around the boat lay only darkness, endless, boundless darkness. Like a drowning man, he flailed wildly, yet found no foothold, no resistance. He felt himself sinking, descending into ever deeper and blacker abyss. Looking upward, he saw the small boat drifting farther away. The lantern's glow diminished, shrinking smaller and dimmer, until at last it vanished. Duchian Devil King! That scoundrel! He truly deceived me! Chin Mu felt as though he had fallen into a nightmare without end. There was no escape, no struggle, no salvation. This was a darkness that devoured hope and drowned all will and despair. Meanwhile, the boat that bore his soul had already sailed far away. Suddenly, Chin Mu gathered every ounce of strength in his soul and shouted, crying out in the language of Yudu that Duchian Devil King had taught him. The obscure tones were smooth yet rugged, impossible for mortal tongues to pronounce, for they were words meant only for the soul. When he finished, an equally cryptic and ancient voice answered from the boundless darkness. It too spoke Yudu's words, yet it sounded like chanting. The voice resembled that of an ancient forebear, offering life and fresh blood as sacrifice to a dignified god who shouldered the weight of the world. At once, Chin Mu felt himself rising. The speed of his ascent quickened faster and faster, until he transformed into a streak of light. That streak whistled through the void and burst from the darkness, plunging back into Chin Mu's body before the gate. The body trembled violently as Chin Mu gasped for air. Sweat drenched him as though he had just crawled from water. Behind the gate, the boat drifted over once more, unhurried. The elder gazed at him, yet did not raise the lantern this time. Chin Mu stood before the gate, prepared at any moment to disperse his Saturn sovereign form and cause the gate to vanish. He asked, Tao, brother, what is the meaning of your sentence? The elder's gaze settled upon him as the small boat slowly turned toward the darkness. Earth is the great origin. All things owe to it their birth, receiving obediently the influence of heaven. Earth In its vastness, supports and contains all things. Its noble capacity matches boundless power. Its comprehension is broad, and its brightness is great. The myriad things within it attain full development. The mare is of earthly kind. Its power of moving upon the earth is without limit. It is mild and docile, advantageous and firm. Such is the course of the superior man. If he takes initiative, he goes astray and loses his proper path. If he follows, he is docile and attains his regular course. The words you spoke were none other than "Earth is the great origin." Had you spoken them earlier, I would not have taken your soul. The boat drifted farther and farther, gradually vanishing. The elder's voice carried from afar, growing faint. This gate is Udu's gate of heaven influence. It is earth origin heaven influence. Ghosts may enter, but it is not a place for you. Duchen Devil King truly sought to harm me. Chin Mu fumed, then suddenly laughed aloud. Fortunately, my life remains. I can settle accounts with him slowly. My soul seems to have changed somewhat. He sensed his soul had grown stronger after that journey to Udu. Chin Mu stood stunned. When he executed Overlord Body 3 elixir technique, he felt an indescribable force flowing from the gate of heaven influence, nourishing his soul. He could not help but marvel. Though Duchen Devil King had deceived him, not all his words had been false. Duchen Devil King had indeed spoken truth. Knowing the words upon the gate and opening it could allow his cultivation to be without flaw, enabling him to surpass even eternal peace imperial preceptor within this realm. Saturn's sovereign's form within his 5 elements realm was of utmost importance, for it was crucial to the cultivation of his soul. After a long while, Chin Mu felt his soul grow increasingly stable. When he lowered his gaze to the scroll in his hand, the characters upon it appeared clearer. Strange symbols emerged, shapes of birds, beasts, fish, sun, and moon. Though he did not recognize them, his eyes passed over them as though he comprehended their meaning. The profound mystery of the script upon the scroll quietly merged into his understanding. Translator, Ninetales. Editor, Dark Gem. The scroll bore but scant lines of script. Chin Mu merely swept his gaze across it once, yet in that fleeting instant, manifold principles of soul cultivation surged into his consciousness like tides crashing upon a cliff. Duchen Devil King had once claimed that spells of Udu were hidden within this scroll. Now it seemed that had merely been another deceit, bait cast to lure him deeper. At least one sentence out of 10 that I utter holds truth. Yet in Duchen Devil King's words, perhaps only 1 in 100 is real. Chin Mu mused inwardly. Of everything he told me, only the language of Udu was genuine. All else was falsehood. He examined the scroll with meticulous care. Should he fully grasp the profundities woven within those characters, he could indeed comprehend certain arts concerning the soul. Yet the foremost purpose of this scroll lay in fortifying the soul itself. The techniques were but a secondary matter. Chin Mu committed every word to memory before closing the scroll and sitting in meditation. He pondered the hidden wonders within the script, striving to derive from it a method of soul sorcery. Within the great educational heavenly devil scriptures were arts that touched upon the soul. The barbarian Dai Empire likewise possessed such methods. The thunderclap 8 strikes that Old Ma had imparted to him, and the great freedom mudra of the devil race, were also techniques that struck directly at souls. The soul guide of Nine Spectres sect was an even more remarkable divine art. If he could compare the runes embedded in these words, he might raise his strength to a higher plane. After long contemplation, Chin Mu slowly rose and walked into his courtyard. With each step, with every motion of limb and breath, he wove the words of Udu into the stance of sunshine refining Yang soul in the sky. This was one of the forms within Thunderclap 8 strikes, the supreme battle technique of Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. Its might was fierce and domineering, honed by successive generations of Rulai to the uttermost extreme, said to have reached a point beyond improvement. And yet now, Chin Mu sought to refine it further. Though he had never cultivated Rulai's Mahayana Sutra, ever since the great educational heavenly devil scriptures had fused with the overlord body, 3 elixir technique, and unified all skills into one, the Thunderclap 8 strikes had grown ever more formidable, no weaker than in the hands of those who practiced Rulai's Mahayana Sutra itself. He drilled the move again and again, punch following punch. The fist became the heart mudra. The heart mudra became the blazing sun. Each strike boomed like rolling thunder and radiated like a scorching orb overhead. As his yang soul was tempered, the force within him rose bit by bit. Sunshine refining yang soul in the sky held little effect upon the fleshly body. Though its display seemed imposing, its true target was the soul alone. Chenmu practiced tirelessly. Gradually, a wisp of flame was forced from the fist mudra. This was no ordinary fire. It was karma fire, that which scorches the very soul. Each of his punches carried strands of karma fire. Bit by bit, the flames intensified until the air about his fist resembled a blazing scarlet sun. The more he struck, the more natural it became, until he could no longer restrain the urge to howl toward the heavens. Suddenly, a vast sun erupted above, flames bursting in all directions, karma fire engulfing the entire courtyard. Chenmu withdrew his stance and exhaled softly. At that moment, his heart stirred. He opened his door to see Sword Hall Master striding toward him in haste. Chenmu welcomed him inside and asked, "Sword Hall, what urgency presses you so?" "Heavenly King Lu is gravely injured," Sword Hall Master replied in a low voice, his expression solemn as iron. "He is at my residence and seeks audience with Cult Master. His condition is dire beyond measure." Chenmu's heart jolted. Without delay, he left his courtyard alongside Sword Hall Master. "Cult Master, I am ashamed to meet you in such a state. My wounds are too severe for proper greeting," Heavenly King Lu said with embarrassment as he lay upon the bed, struggling in vain to rise. Chenmu shook his head and stepped forward to examine him, brows furrowing faintly. The man's garments were in tatters. Even his white hair and beard were stained with blood. Heavenly King Lu's injuries surpassed even those of the Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor. He must have battled several experts of Cult Master rank. Not only was his flesh grievously harmed, but even his divine treasures bore ruin. The damage to his soul was dreadfully severe. All 7 of his great divine treasures had suffered catastrophic blows. His spirit embryo had turned to stone. 3 of his 5-element gods were destroyed. Of his 6 directions divine treasure, only 2 pillars remained standing. His 7 stars divine treasure, celestial being divine treasure, and life and death realm were utterly shattered. Even the soul-flying bridge of his divine bridge realm lay broken. Had it been merely these injuries, there might have been hope. But the crux was that he was aged. His body no longer possessed the vigor of youth. His physical frame could scarcely contain a soul on the brink of collapse. Heavenly King Lu drew a deep breath. "Cult Master, I have found Heavenly King Qian's whereabouts. Speak no further for now." Chenmu produced 2 bottles of dragon saliva to treat the wounds upon his body. He then gave him another to drink. Muttering uncertainly, he wrote down the names of various herbs and instructed Sword Hall Master to retrieve them from the warehouse. Whether these medicines could save Heavenly King Lu, he could not say. At best, the man might live yet be rendered useless. At worst, Sword Hall Master departed in haste. Though the wounds upon Heavenly King Lu's body improved somewhat, the damage to his soul and divine treasures worsened. He gasped as he spoke. "Heavenly King Qian is already dead. I followed his trail, yet someone used his garments to mislead me into an ambush." Chenmu's brow knit tightly. "Who ambushed you?" "They concealed their faces, yet I recognized their divine arts." Heavenly King Lu's body convulsed. The agony stemmed from the rupture of his soul. Clenching his teeth, his white hair trembling, he forced a chuckle. "They sought the teleportation art of our sacred cult. Cult Master, I can serve you no longer. I have failed the Patriarch's charge." "Be at ease. You shall neither die nor be crippled." Chenmu's eyes twitched as he spoke in a low, resolute tone. "Even should you perish, I will drag your soul back from Yudu." "One who injured me was a first-ranking high official of the Imperial Court." Heavenly King Lu steadied himself. "I recognize his technique. Spirit Treasure Unmovable Meditation Technique. Among the first-ranking high officials, Sun Nantuo, the Crown Prince's Grand Preceptor, has refined this art to its zenith. Seated upon his 1,000-banner pagoda, his spirit treasure is immovable." Chenmu's hands blurred into afterimages as they darted across Heavenly King Lu's body. In but an instant, he sealed Heavenly King Lu's soul within his corporeal shell, preventing its escape. He employed the Heavenly Devil Creation Technique, a method once used by the cult's elders to flay skin and fashion garments. In his grasp, however, it became a means to preserve life. Though the 3 souls and 7 spirits were sealed, Chenmu still could not halt the momentum of their dispersal. Cult Master, though you are a divine physician, you cannot save one destined to die. Heavenly King Lu smiled faintly and, trembling, rose from the bed to sit upon the ground. A flush of color surfaced upon his face. Do not waste your strength. My soul is about to scatter. My divine bridge is broken. I can endure no more. I had hoped to assist Cult Master in restoring prosperity to our sacred cult after Patriarch's departure. Never did I expect I would not live to see that day. Cracking sounds echoed from within him. His divine bridge, divine treasure began to collapse as its support vanished. The crumbling divine bridge, divine treasure crushed the life and death divine treasure, which in turn shattered the celestial being divine treasure. One divine treasure after another fell into ruin. Grief welled within Chenmu's heart. Even the herbs Sword Hall Master had gone to fetch would now be futile. Blazing flames erupted from Heavenly King Lu's body. His soul was being torn apart, and such destruction could not be reversed. His injuries were far too grave, especially those of the soul, already on the brink of dispersal. Should his soul disperse entirely, he would not even enter Yudu. He would not become a ghost. The blazing sacred fire consumed this broken body. Heavenly King Lu murmured amid the flames. Life and death are uncertain. Partings are inevitable. I will not see you become the sacred teacher. How I long to return to St. Arrival Mountain, to behold the sacred teacher tree once more. I can almost hear the woodcutter's axe striking its trunk. The elder trembled within the fire, then revealed a gentle smile. Cult Master, I am very cold. Chenmu reached out, wishing to grasp the elder's hand. Yet what his palm closed upon was nothing but drifting ash. The blazing fire faded, leaving only gray-white ashes behind. Footsteps thundered from outside as Sword Hall Master rushed in, arms laden with bundles of herbs. Chenmu turned, eyes vacant, and said softly, Sword Hall, there is no need. Heavenly King Lu has already ascended. The bundle slipped from Sword Hall Master's grasp and fell to the floor. This 9-foot burly man knelt deeply, bowing his head. His shoulders shook without cease, yet no sound escaped him. After a time, Chenmu gathered the ashes into a green jar and stood before it in a daze. He had been thrust into this position without warning, sold by Granny C into the Heavenly Devil cult, bewildered and unprepared, yet somehow made its cult master. At first, he had felt little attachment to the cult itself, caring only for Granny Sai and the young patriarch. But as he came to know the Heavenly Devil cult more intimately, he grew fond of its doctrine and the curious souls within it. He admired their conduct, their way of confronting the world. He had already come to regard himself as one of them, striving earnestly to become a worthy sacred cult master. Chenmu had not spent long with Heavenly King Lu. The elder had treated him less as a sacred cult master and more as a mischievous disciple, tidying the chaos he left upon St. Arrival Mountain. Like an indulgent elder, his eyes had shone with admiration, and now he was gone, reduced to ashes within a green jar. Sword Hall. A sharp glint surfaced in Chenmu's once blank gaze as he spoke slowly. Command the disciples to mobilize all resources and investigate. I want every scrap of information on Sun Nantuo, Crown Prince's Grand Preceptor, his life, his family, his sect, his disciples, everything. Sword Hall Master rose. As Cult Master commands, Chenmu continued, bring Heavenly King Lu home. He wished to rest beside the sacred teacher tree. You shall bury him there. Sword Hall Master carried the green jar away. Chenmu stepped out from Sword Hall's residence and encountered Si Yunxiang, who had returned from the floor of Heavenly Record to retrieve his book tablet. He then made his way to the floor of Heavenly Record. Ascending to the 3rd level, he found only 100 scrolls preserved there. White-haired secretaries pored over ancient tomes, researching diverse techniques, striving to cast aside the old and usher in the new. Chenmu located the spirit treasure unmovable meditation technique and studied it intently. For 2 days and nights he neither slept nor rested, immersing himself in its depths. Only then did he depart, returning home to sleep. The following day, Sword Hall Master delivered a thick dossier. Chenmu read it carefully, scrutinizing every detail. Half a day passed as he examined all that had been gathered regarding Sun Nantuo. At last, he closed his eyes. Sword Hall Master had stood silently by his side throughout. After some time, Chenmu opened his eyes and said, Nantuo Monastery, Sun Nantuo, spirit treasure, unmovable meditation technique. Should we exterminate his entire household within the capital, the repercussions would be immense. We shall strike beyond the city's walls.